Hello, and welcome to Reaching Goal Fulfillment. Uh, I'm interviewing and actually following 8 entrepreneurs over the course of a year, interviewing them at the beginning of the year about their goals for 2021. Then, in the middle of the year, which this interview is, to see what's working, what's not working, make adjustments to finish really strong and have a really good and productive and rewarding 2021. So, I did interview Dan at the beginning of the year. So, let me introduce Dan briefly. He is currently a certified life coach. He also is a songwriter and musician. And he also has had some personal goals, which were health goals and other self development goals. Thank you very much. And, it's really cool to see, you and the people that I'm interviewing, your growth over the year, and just and doing really inspires me too, because so many of us, what's your New Year's resolutions, and then they don't even get through January, and they don't even know they don't even remember what they were even. They're like,
Right.
oh, da 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 da.
Yeah.
So to really stay the course, I mean, I really admire that, and I'm doing the same thing, and it's really, really rewarding. Thank you for this opportunity to share this. It helps. Helps me. I'm sure it helps you, and helps our viewers too. So thank you very much. This is very awesome,
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
and thank you for
You're
sharing.
right. This is more than just like a New Year's resolution. This is a resolution, implementation, planning. Yeah.
Exactly all that. So, looking at your goals for the year, what's going well? What's currently going well as for the first half of the year of 2021?
Yeah. So it's a question I am always asking myself, sometimes even daily. Um, and it's a great question. So I would say for me, that I'm still keeping my practice alive is going well. Um, so I'm managing to pull in some clients and to run some workshops. And the sort of third leg of my coaching business is the ELI assessment, the Energy Leadership Assessment, which you participated in,
Yes,
and
I
so
did.
that,
Thank you very much.
yeah. So yeah. So I'm managing to sort of keep the balloon in the air, so to speak, and that's going well. And also, I did make a transition um, that was somewhat unexpected, somewhat expected, which was leaving my corporate job. And since I had established myself as a life coach and started the practice, I was looking for that place when it would make sense to retire and then, keep ramping up my job further. And then coronavirus hit, the pandemic, and um, my job, actually, my entire department evaporated and were removed from the company I was in. And so it was sort of like a forced early retirement, a little bit ahead of schedule. So that I had to adjust to, but it helped reinforce that the investing, the 401k contributions that I had made, um, all of those things contributed to uh, having some good savings and investments in place that'll help carry me through. So that was unexpected, but I'm putting that in the good category.
Yeah, that's great. You created a nest egg, and you already started a process previously where you were transitioning into something else. You weren't starting at square one. What do I want to do? you had a certification, you had some clients, you had some experience. So you had some foundation already started. So hats off to you. That's really awesome.
Yeah. And then, I've learned some things in the process of, I think that I have done a little bit better of a job of not becoming overly attached to my corporate job. And that meant that my work life balance left me with a lot more feeling of freedom. And then that also meant that when that position ended, um, I didn't feel so much of the grieving. I didn't feel as attached in my identity to that corporate job. So I was in a better position to say, okay, now that's finished. That chapter of my life is over. Now what is available to me? Instead of having that stuck feeling like, oh, who am I? Or feeling lost because that's now taken away from me. But there's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of grief anytime
Yes.
something ends or stops. So I felt like I was in a good position to say, yeah, there's some sadness here. There's some patterns that were good patterns. So how do I keep my days, my hours engaged when I don't have that corporate job to go to? But I feel like, yeah, it's been mostly in the good category.
In what areas are you doing well in? What areas are you doing well in getting good results at this time?
Yeah, so I would say finance. I'm doing well um, in terms of like overall engagement. That has been um, I'm putting that in the good category, even though that's been very hampered and um, it's been very difficult during COVID to stay engaged with people. But I can tell by my amount of Zoom burnout that I'm trying to compensate. I'm trying to connect. I'm, running a small men's group and I'm doing some of the things to stay in touch with my local community. Um, so engagement is another area that's going well. Um, even in terms of retirement goals, I knew that I wanted to have some really good structure. So I put several practices in place, and even things like I knew I wanted to get more involved in gardening, for example. So I've sort of taken that to heart and created practices around that, and so that's been really delightful to kind of really enjoy my backyard and create a almost like another room right outside where I can have a real sense of sanctuary. And so, yeah, there's some areas that are going really well. Yeah.
Yeah, my aunt during this COVID time, she redid her whole garden. I'm going to be on vacation from work, so I'm going to do some landscaping myself for the front and backyard. So, yeah, and my aunt. So, I'm thinking a lot of us, because of the lockdown and COVID, we're 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 like, okay, I'm in this environment, and then maybe you're we focus on a little bit more. And it's like, hey, let me improve my environment. I think that's what's happened with you, my aunt, and me in a week. I just have to wait until I'm just waiting until the vacation, and it'll be part of my daily routine. I'm going to do other things when I'm on vacation, but it'll be like, okay, I set this time aside, and then it's just like going to the gym or anything else. It'll be that thing, and then if I don't do it, I was like, hey, I was supposed to do some gardening today. What's going on?
Right, right.
What are some areas that you think that you may need some improvement or focus?
Yeah, I take these areas seriously too. So I really kind of observe myself. Um, And one area that the pandemic really shined a light on for me is um, I had some real problems with pain, and the way that I was able to overcome them was to kind of investigate um, the emotional connection, the emotional source of that pain. And um, so I discovered some interesting things along the way. Like I discovered how I have a certain amount of social anxiety around grocery stores. And that got a lot worse relative to the pandemic. I mean, it was very scary the first few times that we had to all of a sudden wear masks and social distance and then go grocery shopping for the first time. And so um, I've been really kind of looking at that aspect of myself and saying, what's that all about? And reminding myself when I'm grocery shopping to sometimes stop in the aisle and take some deep breaths and just kind of play against that tendency to get anxious. And it's been a real interesting exercise to kind of catch those moments and say, you know, what is going on here, and how can I have a more integrated experience where I can take what I'm feeling in the moment and then regulate it a little bit better rather than just like being a little scared and then clenching, or really putting that tenseness into my body for long periods of time, which I think then resulted in some of the pain that I was experiencing.
I think what you just explained is I think you're trying to stop a moment and almost remove yourself briefly from the situation, like an outside observer, and kind of look at it and go, okay, this is, and then get the insight. And then it's like, okay. And I like about the breathing and that sort of thing. It's like, okay. And just taking a moment. And that moment could be only 3 seconds. It doesn't have to be long. And nobody sees that
Right.
you took 3 seconds. Nobody knows that. Only you know you took 3 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, and also like observing those moments when I might be just bored at home because now my days aren't filled up with what I was doing at the corporate job, and to just not let that spiral into maybe depression. And so to be able to just say, recognize, okay, I'm in a state of boredom. I feel like I want to be in some way soothed or entertained. And then the more I can really observe those moments and catch them unfolding, then I can make better decisions about what's a healthy way to address this boredom. Well, maybe I need to learn something new. Maybe I need to get out in the garden and move a plant from one side of the garden to the other side where it'll get more sun. Or, or maybe it's good to be entertained and sit down and watch a show on television. But the more I can kind of be paying attention to myself, then I think I'm in a better position to say, what's the best response to this?
Yeah, everyone's different. Like something with me is since the lockdown, when I'm inside, I'm always thinking about the next time I can be outside.
It's good
It,
awareness.
yeah, and that never happened before, and it's like, okay, and it's like, oh, the next time I can be out is this time. So a lot of times now, before you can just start going into Starbucks. That was my routine. Everyone has their routines. Where if I was at home working on whatever I should be working on, my brain could kind of go, but then for me, it doesn't work with everyone. I'd be in a crowded Starbucks and I'd just the noise and the activity. And then I would go to like this Irvine Spectrum and then walk around and take breaks every couple of hours. So now, even though I can go inside a Starbucks again, what's happening is I'm outside for a few hours at the time and I'll be outside, even though now I can get that Wi-Fi. But there's something in me that just wants to be outside now. It's like, oh, I just, it's the freedom. I think I just want this expansiousness of it or something. So
Well,
I'm
there's
noticing
a,
that in myself.
yeah, you're bringing up a good point, which there's an aspect of nature and being outside,
Hmm.
even in urban environments, where you can change your perspective, right?
It's true.
And there are aspects of being out and being around plants that is even more kind of healing and you know, sort of reconstituting ourselves, you know, like putting ourselves back where we can absorb, you know, all these the good stuff from nature.
Yeah, and I think it's part of connection. And then you kind of now I think because of all that's happened, we're looking for connection and connecting with nature, and me wanting to connect with nature. A part of that is I'm buying a dog this summer. That's connecting with nature too. It's all
Yeah.
part of the same thing.
Right. Yeah, one of my best learnings in my garden is finding a place to just sit under a really big pine tree that's between my lemon tree and another part of my backyard. And it's just glorious to just sit there and slow down and sort of just contemplate life.
Exactly. And sometimes being in these environments when we're trying to create something, and I know we both are, it can really stimulate or activate that creativity. When we're in this expansion environment, then we feel expanded, and then our ideas in turn can expand. It's all can kind of go all together.
Right? Yeah, it's all connected.
It's awesome. What are some of your successes for the first part of the year?
Well, I would say so. I'm doing some work with a university in Mexico, and it was a real interesting opportunity because um, they weren't in a position to pay me, and so I had an inflection point where I had to say, "There's enough right about this situation to be working with them, but I also need to make money and get paid." So I went through a process to evaluate um, what value it was bringing to me. And one of the things that I settled on that helped me make a decision was they were open to me developing content with them. So that meant that I could develop new courses and then test them out with the university students before I even brought them into my coaching workshops to share with people. So I thought that's very valuable, and so I started along those lines, and I started presenting some of my potential workshops in the form of lectures to the students. So that's a big win. And then just like I was saying earlier, just continuing the coaching and you know, like the anger workshop I told you about that webinar um, and so I have subsequently started a new lecture that I'm preparing that I'm going to give to the students in early July.
That's really cool, and you know, it's all different things. You know that you're making a course, but then when you're interacting with people and speaking, that's really cool because you still, you know, you're connecting with people, and there's something different about being in the same room as somebody and that sort of thing. One of the things I'm doing, I always have this theme in my head. It won't stop. It's like this little voice that keeps on whispering. do what others are afraid of doing. And, there's people that are afraid of public speaking, and hats off to you in giving a lecture like that. And same in turn, one of the things I'm doing, and I don't know where it'll go, but I'm like, hey, I'm at peace with it. And I'm saying, okay, I'm going to do this. So I'm writing a TED talk, and I had a couple of books, and they had all these little elements of a successful TED talk. So I gave a rough draft, and then I'm going through all the elements and trying to incorporate them into my speech and everything. And there's qualifiers. I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm like, here we go. And it's just one step at a time. So literally today, the elements that are supposed to be in the TED Talks, it was in 2 books. I'm literally today finishing the last element. So there'll be like a little landmark. So it'll be something like, yay, I did this. And it's one of those things you just break down a goal into these little tiny things. And sometimes I'm so involved that I didn't realize. I go, whoa, that's done.
Yeah. No, it's a good strategy, I think, to say, if I didn't have any fear, I would, or if I wasn't
Mm.
afraid, I would do this, because that really helps us kind of see what's holding us back.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. That's a
Yeah.
great, sometimes just questions can be so powerful. That's like going back to Socrates. How did he teach was through the questions.
Yeah.
And he would just
Yeah.
pose the questions, and the people themselves did the work and got the insights. All he did was supply the questions, but it was enough to take them where they needed to go.
Right.
It's
No,
awesome.
it's true. Those are some of the most powerful questions. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What areas feel that you could use some improvement?
Yeah, lots of areas is the answer to that question. So I would say mainly, so I feel very confident that once I get introduced to people and have a chance to um, work with them, I can really transmit a sense of trust and safety and real compassion for people that attracts them to work with me. So what I haven't figured out is how to get in front of more people so that I can move past the onesie twosies. Um, so yeah, that's an area that I'm sort of constantly looking out for. What's the way for me to get in front of more people and and kind of demonstrate my skills?
Like different platforms and methods. And then,
Yeah,
yeah, and things keep on changing. There's some things that don't even exist that are going to help that. They're going to exist in 3 to 5 years. So,
yeah,
yeah,
I
part of it is always looking at these new opportunities. Or another one that's powerful is sometimes the technology or certain things exist, but people haven't used it for A, B, and C. So it's there, and then we have to sometimes see something others don't see, and then others will go, "Whoa!" But it was the potential was there, the technology was there, but there has to be that connection that, oh, this could be used for this too. I thought it was just for this. Yeah,
right. Yeah, innovation is definitely uh,
exactly.
something we need to, like, finding new connections, right?
Exactly, because I know I'm not gonna be an inventor, so I'm gonna have to see these things. I know I won't be the one inventing the things.
Maybe you will be the inventor.
Oh, I like the challenge. I like the challenge. Thank you for the challenge. I like that.
Maybe you could say, if I didn't have any fear, I'd be an inventor,
Oh, I like that. That goes back to that other question.
right?
Exactly. What what steps can you take to improve?
That is another good question. And I think I am in a place where it's okay to say, I don't know the answer to that question. Um, but I'm open to learning. So, for example, I could say that, well, a step I could take is to start a podcast that would um, then allow me to start a community around that podcast and start some small groups.
Okay, based off of that. And then
Yeah,
you get the people from the podcast for the groups.
right. But I'm I'm an adult and I can think ahead and I can plan. And so I realized that what I just laid out there was sort of a loose description of a plan with not a lot of meat on the bones and a lot of assumptions, right? So I'm willing to start podcasts and build communities and uh, start establishing small groups. Um, and I've done some of all of those things, but I haven't really seen that will give me the results that I want. So I think that it's almost a better idea for me to stay in the unknown until I feel like an idea lands that like is like one of those puzzle pieces falling into place. Right now, I think I have puzzle pieces and I can't quite see what the picture is. So I'm trying to put the mountain on top of the bird and then crushing the bird.
Once you see it and the whole thing,
That was a silly
kind of,
ending analogy to what I was trying to say, but that I can't tell what the picture is, so I'm not making a very good picture yet.
okay. You are you thinking of maybe brainstorming ideas with other coaches or something of that nature?
Yeah, yeah, I have lots of ideas. Like I could see, I know that there's a clear path for me to develop lectures and workshops and offer those. And so what I might do is say, what's the end game or what's the larger picture there? So it might be that it would make sense to write a book that where there would be a chapter per workshop topic that I've created. So I can
It's a
think of
good idea. Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes what goes into books, like I've seen people that have done this. I'll give you a name in a second. Timothy Ferris. There we go. I got a name. Timothy Ferris. One of the books I've read was he divided into topics and from all his podcasts. So there's been instances where books were written that the content wasn't new, but it was focused on a certain thing. So, he already had all that wealth of information, and then
right,
he just synthesized it into different topics, and then it stood out more because now it's organized.
right, right. So a lot of times it's sort of maybe thinking of myself more like a content creator than a coach, and that the content maybe that's what attracts people to be coached by me.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's really good about you is, the coaching is based on something. It's not a random thing. It's based on, the results of assessment, and it shows the strengths and weaknesses. And then people have a clarity. Then it's like, I'm over here and I want to get here, and it's actually measurable. Otherwise, the person's saying, am I improving?
Right.
And then that kind of helps set that. Yeah, because I'm better here, here, and here. I'd like to be here with those things, and I'd like to develop these skills that I really don't have as of yet. But these skills have gone up, and yeah, just like if you're going to a doctor, you'd like to say, okay, my blood sugar went down, my cholesterol went down. Why are these doctors having these assessments to see where you are? So it's not like I think I'm healthier. I'm telling myself I'm healthier. I must be healthier. I convinced myself I'm healthy now, doctor. No, no. Anyways.
Well, that could be part of it too.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. What what do you need to do differently? Or what do you feel you need to do differently?
Well, I think the best way for me to answer that is mostly I would say I have an open mind, I have a growth mindset. Like I go into situations with a certain amount of openness, looking for what can I learn from this situation? How can I improve? Um, but that's not always the case. And there are certain things that shut me down or that prevent me from having that growth mindset. And so those are the areas I'm working on. Like I said, getting really learning my system so that I can say there's something about going into a grocery store that gives me a bit of anxiety, enough so that it's worth looking at, right? So I think I need to look at all these places where um, things aren't optimal, and I tend to shut down and say, how can I make better decisions?
Exactly. But yeah, and of course, the first step is the awareness. Because sometimes we're not even aware.
Right. So even as I look to, like, if I put these things together and I say there's an area I want to improve, I want to find better ways to get in front of people. As I start to explore all those threads of, well, maybe this will be a way,
Hmm.
then I also have limiting beliefs and places where I get overwhelmed. And so in order to really explore those areas, I have to say, how do I stay in an open growth mindset as I explore these new areas? And so it's easy for negativity to crop in and say, well, I could do this, I could advertise this way. And then a voice says, no one's going to respond to that. That's not a good advertisement. You're not good at marketing, right? And so I have to say, like, what am I going to do with those messages? Am I going to believe them and shut down?
Mm.
Or
Yeah.
am I going to say, no, I don't know that those negative messages are true either. What is the truth between this goal of advertising and doing it in a way that I can feel good about it and proud of it and that I made all the right choices? So I think even when I get into the good stuff, I still have to say, don't shut down around it.
Exactly. And let it run its thing and see what the actual numbers and results are.
Right?
And go,
Yeah.
oh, I am getting results there. Or yeah, exactly.
Well, that's a critical point, because the way I manifest that, I refer to that as experiments.
Mm-hmm. No,
Like
seriously, like
I'm a
a
scientist, right?
scientist.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. And so if I want to do an advertisement, then what's the experiment? What are we trying to prove? Who are we trying to attract? Um, and then, you
What
know,
kind of clients? Yeah, what
yeah,
is your goal of clients? Yeah, starting with that first, age group, et cetera, et cetera. And am I getting a different audience than what I was trying to attract?
Yeah,
That
and
can
then
happen
when you
too. And
do
you're
the
like, wait, oh, I'm connecting with these people.
right.
Yeah,
When
I
you do
wasn't
the
trying to.
experiment, then it can be, then even within the experiment, you have to say, okay, did I really get the results that I thought I was going to get?
Hmm.
And sometimes you have to be brutally honest and say, well, no, it didn't match my expectations, but these are the results. So what can I modify and redo differently, or do I abandon this altogether? So there's opportunities to shut down or open up or improve or optimize all along the way.
I'm happy with one thing that you're doing. And it's something that I'm doing too, not in the exact same way. But I think something that's happening to as a in in general, people that are going towards entrepreneurship, we're getting fed throw out content, throw out content, throw out content. I'm not going to knock and say no, but it's like this silver thing. And then if somebody just throw out more content, have more platforms, have this, have that, but in the end, what is business? Connecting with people. And when you're doing those workshops, the webinar and these type of things, you're connecting with people. And there's so much content out there that somebody will get this video or that video. This, you still have to make that connection. And I think we're getting fed the messages, content, content, content. And then these people are like, I'm not getting any results. But in the end, you need to connect with people and really spend time with people. And then later, they may buy this course or whatever. But I'm just like, and then people just go and just focus on how many subscribers they have on YouTube. How many connections have you made? Not how many subscribers you have on YouTube. And
Right.
I and I'm happier going there. And I'm seeing this more and I'm focusing more on that. I'm not saying I'm stopped my YouTube channel or whatever, but and a lot of times that YouTube channel is, for me, it's a video journal of what I've worked on, my progress, and some thoughts. And even when I'm working out something personally that just happened to me that's tough, you know, like the last video I made, I won't go into the detail. There was, and I keep it private of the incident in the YouTube channel, but I talk about a general statement instead of saying, this is what happened to me, poor me. No, I didn't do that. It was just the overall message of, sometimes it's hard and to let go.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you have to let go and, and then you can't take that other person personally because a lot of times that you could be hurt or something and they're not even thinking about it at all. That's the interesting part. So it's you. And then if a similar thing happens again, I get more upset at myself. It's like, you already know this. The first time you find out, you're like, I can't believe it. But if you keep on getting upset and then you're just gonna keep on going through that same pattern, then it's something I need to let go of.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
those are
so
some
that
good
was the last
lessons.
video I made on YouTube was, the importance of letting go. And I wanted it to be a broad over thing and said, poor me in this incident. No, I wanna, and then I even at the end of the video, like I was thinking about that thing that happened, and I even went like this and I said, okay, I'm gonna let go. And I even went like that, a physical thing. Like, so that's almost like, okay, I let go of that physically, like this on YouTube. So that's part of the benefit right there. I let go and I did it live on YouTube. It's powerful. I even made the motion. I go, okay. And then after I let go, I felt better. I went, okay, just let go.
That's beautiful.
What do you need? What do you need to do more of, do you think, on the second half of the year to, help with your goals and your progress?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I think I'm exploring, not, I think I'm exploring, I'm looking at areas where I could add some education or some other expertise to what I'm doing so that I could, I guess, hyphenate. I could be a this kind of a life coach or that kind of a life coach. Um, so I'm just looking at some areas around mindfulness and wellness that. So right now I'm really not a wellness coach per se. I don't really make any
Okay.
health claims, but there's some areas of mindfulness um, that start to cross over where I would be willing to be that kind of a coach if I got certain other certifications or and some of that I can still bring in and work with, like obviously breathing and meditation and some aspects of how people's minds works.
Yeah, there's a couple of things there. I Number one, that's the thing, if it's set in stone, people will go, I get this degree and I get this degree and that degree. But it's on us when it comes to life coaching or entrepreneurship. It's on us to get that knowledge. And, if there are certifications, it's not a set thing. Oh, are going to get a master's in history. You have to do these steps. And
Right.
that's, I think, what can scare people from entrepreneurship is, we're putting in a system with, we're told exactly, I want to do this. And then we're told exactly it has to be like this. But with entrepreneurship, it's on us to create our own qualifications and everything. And, we can tap back into that school model, but now it's harder for us and takes more discipline, I believe, to create our own coursework in a way generated towards our own thing, and nobody's going to say it's exactly like this.
Well, I think it's part
And
of
part of that is,
specializing too.
yeah, part of that is liberating too, because you're creating it all yourself. So it can be scary and liberating at the same time, I think.
Yeah, kind of like life, like the things worth doing are a little bit scary, and
True.
that's part of also celebrating our diversity is you and I could both be great life coaches and um, like would refer people to you. I would hope you would refer people to me. And the idea is that we each have the people that you resonate with and that you help the most. That's part of your style, part of your memories, your upbringing, all the things that make you who you are as a coach.
True.
And then the choices that you make about what you're going to especially study or get certified in, that just strengthens the diverse possibilities. So, like, for the people who haven't yet thought about reaching out and getting coached, um, there's an amazing, wonderful array of coaches out there, and you may need to do a little work to say, how can I find the right fit for me? But the really overwhelmingly good news is that you can find that person pretty easily. In fact, like for what I do, I offer a free intake session just for the purpose of checking in and seeing, are we a good fit?
Hmm.
And it lets me give like a sample coaching session and really have them try it on and see, is this the right, is this someone who I can grow with? you know is this feel like a good, open, maybe even somewhat challenging conversation to move me to where I couldn't go by myself? And so, like, we get to shine in our own different ways by the choices that we make.
Yeah, it's true. And I think there's something that really resonated with me. On this journey, I read a book called The Laws of Human Nature. And in that book, this inspires me. I'm thinking of Leonardo da Vinci as like inspiration. I mean, he was really strong in art, science, and all these areas. And they're saying that the true thing of mastery is like you have your coaching practice, but then you're putting other elements in there that strengthens it. And that's a true master of something, is able to incorporate, like Leonardo da Vinci, he incorporated his knowledge of human anatomy into his art. And I think, and this is something that I'm going to be doing myself, is I'm coming up with a Zoom goal coaching program, as far as goals go. But then that will be, but the next versions of it, which I'll add to it, will be like the Leonardo da Vinci element. It won't be in the version A, and then the version B and C will be incorporating these other things to really strengthen it. Just like
That's great.
Leonardo da Vinci threw in his art into his anatomy into his art, and that is the ultimate thing. When you can do that, it's just so, yeah, awesome.
Oh yeah.
And that book inspired me. I was like, hey, that's a challenge, but that is so awesome.
Yeah, I have a good good way to describe how that manifests on my side, which is the first workshop I created was about reframing anger. And it came from a place where I felt like I didn't have a handle on my anger. And to be clear, I'm not a rage monster. It's just more that when I did get angry, it felt very disturbing to me, and I wanted to understand it better. And so I've offered that. This is now, I'm in my third year of offering it, and as I learn more and as I coach people more, I've upgraded and changed and removed some parts and added some parts. And so it keeps strengthening. And it feels like now it's more important than ever to be helping people. And there's so much anger out in the world now that's still so misunderstood. So I really like that idea of starting something, even if it's just a good kernel, and then
Hmm.
improving it and tweaking it and making it better over time. Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise, people like it's set in stone. I made the rule, and then okay, and then you can't touch, and then you're going to get feedback from the people you're working with. Oh, I like it if you did more of whoa. I
Right.
really got a lot of value out of whoa, and the way you put, sometimes the stuff that they kind of know, but the way you put it, they're like whoa, and then they'll always think of it the same way. Sometimes the words you hear can be powerful. I learned that. I would play pool, and sometimes I'd be in a certain situation. I'd hear the voice of my coach. He's not even there on this particular shot. And then we're not playing a sport, but somebody that you're working with, they'll get in a certain situation, they'll hear your voice, and you're there. And then they go, oh, okay, I'm going to do this different. And then they do it, and they go, good. I'm glad I listened to Dan. He was almost there with me.
Yeah. I could see that happening.
Oh yeah, and they'll remember. They'll even hear your voice in exact words, and they're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa," and they remember, and it's like, wow. And it'll feel like you just talked to them 3 minutes ago. It's like, whoa. Okay, let me see. I asked you what you should do more of. Yeah. What do you feel you should do less of?
Worrying.
Yeah.
That's an easy one. Yeah, I think worrying is really a good answer. Even worrying that I'm bored,
Mm.
you know, um, just kind of staying more present and not being too caught up in the bad kind of future planning and the bad kind of ruminating over the past. If I could minimize those things, I'd be in pretty good shape.
I like that. Yeah. Because, yeah, if we all worried less, we'd all be doing better. Every one of us, including me. That's so true. What do you think you should start doing uh, during the last half of the year? Is there anything you think that you should start doing?
Uh, yes. So what I think about with that question is, so for example, I mentioned my pain that I was dealing with earlier. Um, I found a really amazing app that I started using called Curable that actually um, is reframed my experience of pain. And it's such good information and really well formatted. And they even have groups that you can join, support groups, where they reinforce the information that's on the app. And so I thought this is important enough. So I joined that group. But the reason why I'm telling you that story is that that's a 12-week course.
Okay.
And so it makes me think of like what I would be doing next to be learning or expanding. And so I'm looking at a couple different courses, and
Okay.
some of them are actually like accredited, where I could, add that to my certification. Um,
Oh, good.
some of them aren't,
So you
but I
get
still
double,
think they're
yeah, you get more
important.
value, of course.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm thinking maybe it sounds like you have different courses in that are kind of that you're exploring. And then
right.
I think it's like I think the question to ask is maybe which one of these gives me what I need now, which will be different than what you needed 3 years ago, what you need 5 years from now. And that is a hard question to answer. So, what can give me the most value now at this point with whatever I'm trying to do to get to the next, level? It's kind of, I think what we're doing, you think of it, it's like sports. There will be times where we'll get to a plateau and it's like, okay, how do I get to that next thing? And maybe it's what a specific course will help me get to that next thing. And in turn, be able to reach more people and really help people and help them the best that we really can.
Right. And, I would tie this back to an earlier part of our conversation, which is thinking in terms of experiments.
Hmm.
Because I can make certain choices and say, out of these three options, this will help me the most right now. But that's an assumption, and then that's a guess. And I don't really know. But
True.
it's okay. It's an experiment. So I can make the best choice out of those three. And then I can see, did that really help me in my life right now? Right?
And in what ways? It might be a way that you didn't realize until later.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you
Being
go, whoa,
open to
whoa,
surprises.
I'm actually surprised at that. I didn't see that at first, and it didn't really benefit me a lot, but all of a sudden now it is.
Yeah.
6 months later, you're like, whoa, exactly. What do you think that you should stop doing or limit in order to help you accomplish your goals in the second half of the year?
Yeah. So I kind of reframed phrase that I would call that boundary setting.
Okay.
Um, and so there's some, it's different if it's sort of boundary setting with a family member about something versus boundary
Mhm.
setting with an organization or a company, you know. Um,
Yeah, those are different contexts, and how you handle those are totally different.
right,
In a more professional environment, exactly. That's why you said business. That's professional now.
right. So it can, but either one can be challenging, and it's a little bit vulnerable to say, guess what? Here's a boundary I need to clearly communicate. Um, so a lot of those are just interpersonal things about, you know, going back to what I said about the grocery store and recognizing where I have a little bit of social anxiety is to recognize, like, between people or in organizations, for me to be my best self, I need to let you know we're not, you and I are not ever going to talk about politics. Because when we do, it spirals out of control and it makes us both feel nasty. And we rarely are in open growth mindsets when we talk about politics. So, and obviously that's not a situation between you and I,
No,
but
I know, but it's a good example.
but it's an example of where I might need to say to certain people, politics is a boundary, and until we can find a way to demonstrate a better way to communicate, let's choose not to. And I mean, really not going there. So don't
Mhm.
sneak something in. Don't pretend to forget, because what I'm saying is, from this point forward, I'm going to say no to any topics that are political.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So mostly, I think in terms of like boundary setting, um, there's
And
probably
stating that, yeah.
yeah, there's probably some things that I would literally stop doing as behaviors, like we mentioned, health goals. I'm still trying to see what's the right sort of minimal amount, and kind of so that's another set of experiments that I do with or on myself, is to see, like, if I just only eat one salad a day, is that too little?
Mm.
You know, so
Yeah,
it's
that's a good question because, yeah, everyone's body chemistry is different, you know. So sometimes somebody will eat blah, 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 and then you could suggest it to somebody else, and then their vitamin whatever is deficient, and that's not affecting you at all.
right.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
so that's a very personal thing, just for me.
exactly. Because of our bodies are all different, and that's why it's personal too. Exactly. And our whole body chemistry is different, so definitely makes it personable. What's going to work with you, and you could even think of our body chemistry of our own personal environment. We have our own little different environment and strengths and weaknesses within that environment, and then we go with that. It's our
Right.
little body chemistry environment. I've never thought of this. So So now, will you read my book when it comes out, The Body Chemistry Environment?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I think we got a good title, and people go, "What is that?" I think they're going to pick it up. What's a body chemistry environment? What? Everyone has one. Oh, wow. I don't feel excluded. No. They'll feel liberated. I have a body chemistry environment. Okay. All right. And I'm happy with my body chemistry environment now. All right.
Yeah,
Let me see.
as you should be.
Exactly. What did you do today towards your goals? and that is the powerful thing. It's that consistent day by day by day. Like earlier I shared, that today I'll get done with an important step for me. And
Yeah.
it would not be an important step until I did some daily things. So what is what have you done today towards your goals?
Yeah, so that to me that speaks to like my practices, and um, it's such an interesting juxtaposition because as a musician, I never really thought of myself as that disciplined, and I'm probably not as disciplined as most musicians, um, but I have. I think the scenario in preparing for retirement, I knew that I wanted to um, design my life in a certain way. So I have, there's some things that I do that to take care of my physical health, and I bought an inversion table as part of the responding to the pain that I had. So I get up every morning, I do the inversion table, and then I go through a breathing practice. I don't know if you've ever heard of Wim Hof. He's a famous guy who teaches about breathing, and they call him the Iceman, and he does all these cold weather um, things with his body. But
Like the
breathe,
cold shower, was that
yeah,
one?
yeah, yeah, he's the cold
Okay.
shower guy.
Oh, okay.
But he has a breathing technique that's very intense breathing and holding your breath for periods of time. And so I've been doing that as a daily practice. And then I do a little bit of uh, this might be a little bit spiritual woo woo, but I'll tell you anyway. So I have some divination cards that are kind of like
Okay.
uh, tarot cards, and
Yes.
they have a little booklet tells you the meaning behind each one. So I do that thing where I shuffle the cards and I randomly pick one, and it gives me a topic or an idea, and then it has questions or things to think about, and
Mm.
I kind of just contemplate that, and then I meditate for about 15 minutes. So I have this series of morning practices that really ground me and set up my day for being really intentional, and it's a really good setup. So that means almost every day. I don't literally do these every day, but I could go a month and do them every day of the month. Um, so the idea is that I am literally every day contributing to my well-being, my open-mindedness, my health, my body's health.
It sets the tone for the day. And then from there you go into what you're presently working on, your focus right now. May it be creating the workshop or whatever it is at that given time.
Right. And I do some other things, like I make sure I walk every day. I have a 2 mile path that I go on, and I eat healthy every day. So I do have lots of practices that I feel are good and really set me up for success.
Have you learned anything that has affected how you pursue or your goals?
Yes. I suppose you want to know what it is that I've learned. Yeah, I think that the way I would put it, right now, as of today, is just the importance of integrating all the various parts of ourselves. Like, to really, if you thought of like drawing a pie, and you think of all the important areas, like, we've mentioned work and personal and health and finances and all these areas, thinking about how they interact with and affect all the other areas. So all the integrating everything so it's all working together. But if there's an aspect like I think like, oh, I've been too emotional, and boy, I wish I had control over my emotions, or boy, life would be great if I could just be better with my emotions. Then that's kind of, I mean, that's obviously a way of saying to yourself, I'm not doing such a good job with integrating my emotions with my finance and going to the grocery store and all these other things. So I like thinking of myself even when I'm letting go of the construct of myself as like what's the integrated whole where all the parts support and acknowledge each other.
And so everything's working together
Yeah.
like a team and all
Does
towards the
that make
same
sense?
ultimate purpose. Yes, exactly.
So if one part is falling down, like a lot, if someone said, "Boy, I'm having really trouble with my finances," it would still even be appropriate to say, how do you feel about that? And and what's going on physically? And so let's look at the whole picture and say, how can everything be adjusted and optimized to improve your finances? And a lot of times there's some lurking things that are hidden in there that
Hmm.
that we don't consider because we want to sort of shut out everything and just focus on the money.
Oh, true. There may be something else that the person's spending this extra money because they're stressed out about this other thing.
Right.
Yeah, and then they don't get it because they never get to the root.
Right. Like,
Somebody somebody could be way overweight. Well, it could be because their time management's bad, and then because their time management's bad, they're eating too late and then eating unhealthy. So it's really going to their time management. So it can really be wow.
right. Like I can say, for example, I know I've harped on this my situation of having anxiety in the grocery store, but it's I think it's something that people can relate to, and it didn't prevent me from making good choices in terms of what I shopped for.
You're
I
eating
was
healthy
able
choices. There you go.
Yeah, I was able
Exactly.
to make healthy choices, but there is something about being in the grocery store that gave me enough social anxiety that I knew I needed to look at it, and it helped me when I did look at it. So,
Exactly.
there's a lot of you can say things don't have to be um, non-functional or broken before we can optimize or tweak them and make some improvements.
True. What else do you feel you need to learn to help you achieve your goals for the second half of the year?
Um, I would answer that with buy-in. I think that our human condition is pretty complex. And so you've probably heard of the phrase when someone says, this problem is masking another problem, right?
No, I've heard of stuff like this is masking anger in from psychology class,
Right.
something like that nature. And that's where I heard the masking was when I took psychology.
Yeah, so there's a lot of times when uh, the root cause of the problem is not what you think it is, right? And
Yeah,
so in
it's
those
hard.
situations, you need to have a certain amount of what I call buy-in, Um, I need to, when I'm working with people, to get them to believe that they can really hope that things will get better. And so I think that's what I need to learn better, is what gives people, what helps people actually make that shift from a closed mindset to consider that it's possible to make a change.
Mm.
Because that every time, that is what is that tipping point that allows people to suddenly take charge of their lives.
Yeah, the closed mindset is created, I believe, when we're trying to protect ourselves. And, there's these survival, we're still an animal, and there's these survival instincts. And the survival instincts help us when we're in serious danger, when our life really is in danger. And everybody could see the situation. Nobody's going to sit there, not a, anybody will say, oh my God, that's not a survival situation. But then I think so that is good. But then in our instincts, when something could be dangerous, our intuition, all that. But then sometimes we we can't separate that when we're not really in danger, and we're still trying to protect ourselves, like that tiger is right there, and this is my end if this goes wrong.
Well, right. And you bring up a really good point, which is a lot of times our minds isn't differentiating between authentic danger and a sense of danger.
Mm-hmm.
And so we might be triggered by something that is relatively neutral, but that reminds us of something that was traumatic in childhood. And so it might
Yeah,
represent danger to us,
and
even
our
though,
heart starts racing and all these, like the lion really is there,
right?
and not sometimes not much of a difference than the lion's there.
Right, or none at all. Yeah, because your body is still flooding you with the hormones to get ready to run or get ready to
Yeah, the
fight.
adrenaline's going. Yeah,
Yeah.
the fight or flight. It's like, okay, it's, yeah, exactly. What are your what are your next steps to help you achieve your goals in the second half of the year?
What are my next steps? Well, so I think of like my infrastructure is a big word in the government right now. So I think of my infrastructure. Do I have everything in place? And um,
Yeah,
like maintaining my website, and um, Facebook as a way to communicate with people, and Instagram and Twitter and the social media stuff. Um, so really, my next steps are to continue to build out content. Like I said, I have this lecture, a new lecture coming up that'll become a new workshop, and the topic is listening.
yeah.
Because
That's so big.
I think people
Just that
don't
alone
listen.
leads to
Yeah.
divorce or not divorce. It's those little, that listening, yeah. Because you'll hear, uh, we've all been in situations where we're talking, but we don't think the other person's even listening or connecting with it. And sometimes later we'll find out, no, they weren't listening.
Yeah, I think there's even some social ideas about listening, like listening sort of equals weakness, and I don't think that's true. you
I
know,
think part of it is we could want to listen, but then we're stuck in our head. Something happened at work or something stressed us out, and then we can't. So maybe we could just say, oh, Could you give me something happened? Could you give me a few moments? And then later on, when you're in a different mode, maybe you want to hear what they want to have to say, and you're dealing with something yourself, and maybe go for that drive, and then come, and maybe an hour later, and be honest and say, I need a few moments, and then you could fully be present, and sometimes just going for a drive, something, and then take it in. And if you need some time to yourself, don't be afraid to even say it.
Yeah. No, you bring up several good points, and it brings me back to, this integrated understanding is part of what makes people not as good listeners is that they're not as good at regulating their emotions. So, if you knew you were going into, say, a business meeting where you were going to hear some important information for what you needed to do your job well,
Hmm.
you know that's you have that expectation, but you might be angry before the meeting starts. So if you're able to regulate your emotions and prepare yourself for, this is important, I need to hear this information, um, then you're going to be ahead of the game.
For sure. Yeah, very, very important. What areas do you feel you need help or could get help with to help you achieve what you'd like to in the second half of the year?
Oh, marketing, advertising, understanding statistics about marketing and advertising. Yeah.
I think once again, I'm thinking it's good to focus maybe on one at a time. And then once again, going back to what I said earlier, what is the best thing to focus on at this moment, at where you are? And of course, like you said before, that's a very challenging to realize that.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
for sure. But yeah, that's good. No, it's good that you've thought of what they are.
Yeah. The other areas that I know that, is sort of just being open to different ways of networking, or maybe different combinations of, uh, I could see, um, brainstorming different ideas about working with two or three certain kinds of coaches and creating a business that way together.
Oh, okay.
Or,
Like teaming up.
yeah, or different ways of finding how to be a keynote speaker at different, um, lecture
Oh,
series.
that's an interesting question. Yeah, that's one of the things is first just raising that question is powerful. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then seeing, yeah, and maybe you could even talk to on Zoom somebody that is willing to share that was a keynote speaker.
Yeah, yeah, all those different combinations of, um,
And we have to come up with the questions, and sometimes even coming up with the questions is hard.
yeah, very. I have a list of
Just
what I
like,
call my expert questions,
oh,
and
and then this is kind of leading you towards your future. So
yeah.
that's a technique that you developed yourself. That's awesome.
Well, I find that when I'm coaching people, um, that really helps to kind of get them thinking, to stimulate them.
Mm.
And sometimes the questions that you can't easily answer, give you some really, uh, deep experience of contemplating, right?
So what you're saying is Socrates was onto something.
Yes. He gave good question. Yeah.
Exactly. That's his basis of everything. How can you get that help that you need?
Well, I'm going to come back to experiments and say I don't entirely know, and that's okay.
Yeah,
Um, so one experiment that I tried recently was joining Toastmasters, um, and I had certain thoughts about how Toastmasters would, um, improve my public speaking. That's one of the obvious things. Help me prepare lectures, and if I'm preparing lectures for Toastmasters, then I could be using those for coaching. Um, so little things like that of like experimenting with what will bring me the skills that I need and put me in front of the people that I want to be in front of.
exactly. Yeah, I did the same thing with Toastmasters. Before I launched my YouTube channel, some of the subjects I would be talking about, I did over there. So my unfilmed YouTube, my first YouTube sessions, in a sense, was with Toastmasters in a way. And I even stated that's my purpose. I'm going to have YouTube, and I'm, yeah, I'm just getting this and getting some experience.
And they do have some good skills that they teach you. How to structure different kinds of speeches, for example.
Hmm. Exactly. And then you get like feedback, the general evaluator, and everyone has a team and a function and a purpose.
Yeah, it's very
And
structured.
then they give you jobs, so then you're not going to be like you get engaged because you're focusing on one element. May it be the ahs, the ums, or if it's grammatically correct. When you have a job to do, that gets you involved, and then you get more out of the speech. You were looking for this element, but then because you were looking for that, you connected more to, you were more focused on it.
Yeah,
What are
you bring
some?
up a good point is that they also help you remove bad habits of your
Oh, true.
verbalized pauses, right?
Yeah, so true. And things that you can't be aware of. And that's why it's good sometimes to film, because then you can see a nervous tick you have or something. Go, whoa, why am I scratching my hand? I don't do it all the time, but no, my hand couldn't have been itching that whole time. I usually don't scratch my hand. What is it to me scratching my hand or holding my wrist or holding
Yeah.
on to the podium, etc.? And you don't even realize you're holding on the podium. What are some potential obstacles and solutions?
Well, I think there's probably all kinds of obstacles. Yeah, I think I can be my own worst enemy. So like I said, if I go into the closed thinking, shut down states, I can easily not be motivated and not do the networking. So that's probably the main obstacle is me getting in my own way in a bad way. Um, um, Yeah, I mean, we've obviously for the past year and a half seen the kind of external environmental obstacles.
Mhm.
I
That
might not
you
be able to go outside of my house because of the pandemic,
do
so
literally, literally.
that's an obstacle. Um, yeah, I don't. I'm not thinking of a lot of them, which is another way of kind of being optimistic. Is that there's not a lot of obstacles in my way. So I see a pretty clear path.
Let's go. Now you got
Exactly.
you got me into battle mode. That was cool. For a second, I got into my internal battle soldier or whatever.
You're ready to go.
Well, well, thank you for your time. I hope you got some insights from this and some good reflection. and keep on doing what you're doing, your service, that, contributing and to others, and the contributing to others gives us a sense of purpose and fulfillment, and that we're really leaving part of ourselves, you know and impacting others.
Yeah. Well, thank
and
you. Thank you
and
for the whole
people.
series. I hope things are going well with
Oh,
the whole series.
thank you very much. So I will see you. I'll still talk to you, but for this, I will meet with you for a final interview for the final reflection of your 2021 goals. And let's finish strong. We got 6 more months. Minus 5.
Yeah, let's make it a celebration.
Yes. So yeah. So now I'm gonna stop the recording.